Today I am going to take you back in time more than 3 years to August 2017 to share my model railroad story with you once again. I'm Roy Smith. As I said, I'm going to share my model railroad story with you today. Why am I going to do that? Well, for 3 reasons actually. First, my model railroad story answers 3 important questions that many of you have often asked me. These 3 questions are: how did I get into model railroading? Why did I choose Nscale? And why did I decide to model the Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision? Aside from answering those 3 questions, the second reason for sharing my model railroad story with you once again is this. Many of you have had experiences similar to mine in the hobby. These similar experiences have brought us together as best friends, and sharing the hobby among friends is the best part of model railroading. And third, we are creatures of repetition. We love to watch our favorite movies and television programs over and over, don't we? We love to listen to the same music over and over. We love to follow our favorite sports team game after game. Well, the same thing is true in model railroading. We love to watch entertaining model railroad videos, and we love to watch our favorite model railroaders as they share their techniques and their progress with us. So today I'm going to share my model railroad story with you. And while you are watching it, I will be planting vegetation in the railroad complex at Evanston. I have finished doing some detail work there and am putting down an initial ground cover. I'm not 100% certain, but I think my new static grass applicator has arrived at mailboxes to replace my old one, which stopped working. If so, I can go over and pick it up, and then I will be able to continue putting down vegetation in the railroad complex. And then I will be able to share my progress with you in my next video. Now, originally, I uploaded my model railroad story back in August 2017, more than 3 years ago. Back then, I was still filming my videos with an iPhone 6 and an inexpensive Handycam. The quality of the video that you are about to watch reflects the equipment and videographic skills that I had at that time. But some of you have asked me how I film my videos today. Let me show you. I use a Canon EOS M50 camera to film my videos nowadays. It sits atop a tripod right here in my train room. An LED lighting system illuminates my face when I sit in front of the camera. And an external microphone sits on a separate tripod that I bring as close as possible to me when recording my audio. Not a fancy film studio to be sure, but for now I guess it will do. I sit on this comfortable bar stool when I talk to the camera. And I always wear my Union Pacific hat because I don't think you would recognize me without it, and because I don't think I would even be able to make a video without it. Well, here I sit right now, surrounded by my layout. There's no place I'd rather be than right here, right now, surrounded by my layout, and talking to you, my model railroad friends. Now then, I hope that my model railroad story will evoke memories of your experiences in the hobby, and that you will share your experiences with the rest of us in the comments section down below. Okay, let's go back in time. Today I want to share my model railroad story with you. In telling you my story, I will try to answer 3 questions. 1, how did I get into model railroading? 2, why did I choose Nscale? And 3, why did I decide to model the Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision? My model railroad story, that's coming right up. Hi, I'm Roy Smith. Welcome to my layout. As you may recall, this channel reached 1,000 subscribers back on July 19th. In response to that milestone, I invited each of you to tell me an idea for a video that you would like to see uploaded to this channel. The video idea contest lasted a month, and on August 16th I selected and announced the winning idea. The winning idea was submitted by Ron of Ron's Trains and Things. I will post a link to Ron's channel in the video description down below. So, in response to Ron's video idea, here are the 3 questions I will try to answer today. First, how did I get into model railroading? Second, why did I choose Nscale? And third, why did I decide to model the Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision? First, how did I get into model railroading? I'm going to be brief in answering this question because I have already discussed it in part in a previous video called Why is Model Railroading the World's Greatest Hobby? I will put a link to that video at the end of this video. Let me just say a couple of things that I didn't say in that video, or things that I should re-emphasize. Like many of you, my fascination with model railroading began as a kid when I received a Lionel train set for Christmas. I was only 10 at the time, and the year was 1957. But that Lionel train left me with a lifelong passion for trains. 2 additional trains were added to my fleet soon after the first one, and the trains running in circles on my 4x8 layout seemed like magic to me. I spent many hours dreaming about having a layout like the one that appeared on the back of the cover of the Lionel catalog in 1957. But my interest in those toy trains faded as a teenager. By the time I was 15 years old, the Lionel trains got put away in the attic and were never resurrected again until I dug them back out as an adult and took them to a hobby store where I sold them for an absurdly low price. I did become somewhat interested in HO scale for a while, but I never pursued it very far because a career and real life got in the way. Later on, I discovered Nscale. In the mid-1980s, I began to build an Nscale layout, but I never finished it because, once again, my career got in the way. Today, I would never go back to Lionel trains, but they did leave me with a passion for model railroading that I still have to this day. Okay, second question. Why did I choose Nscale? Well, as I just mentioned, I dabbled briefly in HO scale as a young adult, but my career took me away from the hobby, and when I came back to it, I went straight to Nscale. In the mid-1980s, I built an Nscale layout, and just 3 years ago, in 2014, I came back to it again after a 30-year hiatus. As I'm sure you know, each scale has advantages and disadvantages, but I guess the main reason I'm modeling Nscale is because you can get a lot more railroad in a small space with Nscale. My layout room measures only 10 feet by 12 feet. If I modeled in HO scale, such a small amount of space would only allow me to create a switching layout. Nscale is small, but it's large enough to conduct operations, and I can run longer trains in Nscale than I could in HO scale. In fact, I can run trains that are 25 cars long on my layout. I would be limited to trains half that long in HO scale. My layout is a modern era layout, and I need to be able to run long unit trains just like modern prototypes do. Industrial switching is not my primary interest, so I don't have to turn to HO scale, which is better suited for industrial switching. In Nscale, I can experience a much better scenery to track ratio. By contrast, HO layouts often look jammed packed full of structures and track to me. I could never capture the feel of long unit trains blazing across the wide open spaces of southern Wyoming in HO scale. The quality and availability of Nscale products is now approaching that of HO scale. Just go to any online store and you'll see tons of stuff in Nscale. As for quality, 18 of my 20 diesels are Catos. They run smoothly and quietly and are very responsive to throttle commands. And take sound. Listen to this Nscale diesel equipped with a low sound decoder. I'm told that rolling stock is harder to place on the track in Nscale than it is in HO scale, but it's not really hard at all if you use one of these re-railers. And layout photography. That continues to be more challenging in Nscale, but if you get close to trackside with your camera, even Nscale diesels look big. Worldwide, Nscale continues to be second to HO scale in popularity, but in some countries such as Japan, Nscale exceeds HO in popularity. True, I do need to wear these optical visors to do small work when changing couplers and things like that. But I have always been happy with my decision to model in Nscale. I suspect that most Nscalers would continue to model in Nscale even if they had unlimited space. But is Nscale for everybody? Most definitely not. Only you can decide what scale to model in. But I like Nscale and I'm sticking with it. All right, a third question. Why did I decide to model the Union Pacific Evanston Subdivision? This question is a little harder to answer than the two previous questions, but I can tell you this. I grew up in central Pennsylvania with its hills and forests and fields, and so the layout I built in the 1980s was set in Pennsylvania. However, I've always been fascinated by the deserts and semi-arid areas of the American West and Southwest. The scenery and wide open spaces have always attracted me, especially since the 1970s, when I found myself first in West Texas and later in southern Arizona, courtesy of the U.S. Army. As it happened one day in early 2014, I was browsing around on the internet, as I often do, when by accident I stumbled upon some photographs of Echo Canyon, Utah. I was mesmerized by these photos. Right away I noticed that the Union Pacific runs through Echo Canyon. Well, from there I worked my way east on a map across the Utah-Wyoming border, and then I continued across southwestern Wyoming until I came to the classification yard at Green River. There I stopped because that's when I decided that the UP's classification yard at Green River would become the main classification yard on my layout. I learned about the UP's Evanston Subdivision, which stretches 178 miles from Ogden, Utah to Green River, Wyoming. I soon began to plan a layout based on this prototype. I began to read everything I could about the history, geography, and economy of this region and the Union Pacific running through it. I wanted to capture the feel for this region on my layout. I would be able to run lots of trains across the high plains of southwestern Wyoming and through scenery that fascinated me. I would be able to build a double-track main line just like the prototype. This prototype would not obligate me to fill my layout space with lots of track and industries. I soon learned that Amtrak had discontinued its passenger service along this route in 1997, but for a long time that didn't matter to me because later on I learned that Amtrak does reroute its trains across southern Wyoming when its regular route across Colorado is closed for maintenance and repairs. Hence, I could feature occasional Amtrak trains on my layout. Before long, I stumbled upon Pelle Soberg's HO scale Daneville subdivision layout. Pelle's layout was set in the Mojave Desert of Southern California and was one of the most spectacular things I had ever seen. His layout reaffirmed my decision to model a desert railroad. For me, there would be no turning back to eastern railroads. I would build a western layout with Union Pacific trains running across southern Wyoming into Utah. So there you have it, my answers to the 3 questions which Ron posed for me when he suggested that I tell you my model railroad story as a topic for this video. Now, I would love to hear from you. What got you into model railroading? Why did you choose the scale that you model in? And if your layout is based on a prototype, what prototype do you model and why? Please share your thoughts in the comments section down below, because one of the best things about model railroading is the way we can share the hobby. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I want to encourage you to do so, because I post new videos every week and I don't want you to miss any of them. Well, with that, let me thank you for watching this video, and until next time, let me just say, happy railroading. My friends, it was a pleasure to share my model railroad story with you once again. It's always a pleasure to share the hobby with you. While you were watching it, I was planting vegetation in the railroad complex. I will show you what I've done in my next video. Until then, there are tons of other videos for you to watch right here on this channel. I will put a link to my videos page down below. Or you can watch 2 of the videos just by clicking on them over here. Again, thanks for joining me today. I'm Roy Smith. Until next time, happy railroading.